Hello and welcome to allpointstv.com. I'm Sam Jahari and this is Briona's Legacy. And sometimes we have to go back to figure how we got here or where we're going. And I'd like to share with you this because this was the start of it all.
911?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Inaya Johar. My daughter I think she's doing heroin, and she just did it in her room. And I think she's dead. I don't know.
I need your address. I need
room.
You're in your room. Okay, where is she at? Is she sitting up or laying down?
No, she's bleeding. She's blue.
She's blue. Is she laying down?
She's laying down.
Is she on the floor?
She's on the floor.
Is she laying on her back?
No, yes.
Okay, yes. Do you want to try to do CPR?
CPR, okay. Okay, ma'am.
All right, listen, here's what...
We got a pulse.
She has a pulse?
Yeah, my husband's saying that. What should I do, ma'am?
We're going to start breathing for her. If she has a pulse, okay, we need to breathe for her. I need you to open up her airway, okay? I want you to tip her head so her headband's...
Where?
You're going to put... Listen.
Sam, listen.
Listen, I want you to put one hand under her neck and the other on her forehead, and I want you to tip her head so her chin comes up to the ceiling. Can you do that for me?
Okay.
Let's do. Yeah, just like yes. You're going to cover your mouth over hers, and I want you to give her 2 deep breaths of air. I want you to blow up just like you're blowing up a big balloon. Do that for me right now.
We can't open her mouth.
You can't open it up? Okay.
Please, ma'am, hurry up. Briona, please, Mama. Please, get up, Briona.
Okay, listen.
Please.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Yes.
Okay? I want you to put 2 fingers right next to like where the center of her neck is off to one side and tell me if you feel a pulse.
I do. I feel a pulse.
You feel a pulse, but her jaw is locked and you cannot open her mouth?
Yes.
Okay, then let's try this. I want you to cover your mouth over her mouth and nose. Okay, and we're still going to tip her head back because it's going to open up her airway. And let's try that and give her 2 breaths of air. Can you do that for me?
2 breaths of air. Close her mouth and give her 2 breaths of air.
Her nose?
No, open her mouth and close her nose.
As much as you can. I want you to try to give her 2 breaths of air.
Do it.
Okay. Did her chest go up and down?
I didn't see. Do it again, Sam.
Let's try again, okay?
Try it again and see if her... I can see her breath, Sam. It goes up and down.
Her chest is going up and down?
No, not really. No, ma'am.
Not really? Let's okay, listen, you're doing everything you can, and you guys are doing a great job. Let's try to give her 2 more breaths of air, and let's see if we can't make her chest move.
Sam, do it again. Do it again.
Yep.
No, it didn't go up, ma'am.
It didn't go up at all? Is she cold?
Sam, she's cold.
She's cold?
I gotta go open the door, ma'am. I gotta go open the door, Sam.
Okay.
Sam, you gotta move. I gotta move her, honey. Oh, God, Lord, please, no. No, Lord, please. Please, Lord, no. Please. Oh, my God. Ma'am, please tell them to hurry up.
They are coming as quickly as they can, okay?
Please, Lord. Please, God. Oh, my God.
There should be an officer pulling on. Can you open the front door for him?
He is here.
He's there? Listen, they're going to help you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to let you go, okay?
That was February 14th, 2011. That's where everything started and ended, I guess. My daughter, when this is going through in your household and stuff, you're embarrassed, you're humiliated, you don't want people to know what's going on in your home. But after she died, I started speaking out, and I realized that there was an epidemic and that this was happening everywhere, that this crazy addiction is in every household. It doesn't matter where you live. You think that you live in a good neighborhood and that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. But it is in good neighborhoods that this is happening. It's in every neighborhood. As I started speaking out, everybody, I was getting letters from all over the state. And that's what I was told, was that it was happening in their household and they can relate to what was happening. It's really hard for me to listen to that 911 call. But I feel it's very important that we touch on that, so hopefully that you don't have to make that phone call out of your home. Hopefully that it doesn't happen to your child or your sibling, your mother or father or grandparents. This affects everybody. And, a week ago, I had someone that I didn't know. They lost their child. He was 24 years old. And I met with this family. And as we were talking, the father, he's like, I guess he had heard the news like Saturday morning. Or it was Sunday morning or something. He said, by Sunday night, I hadn't killed myself, so I thought I knew that I was going to be able to get through this. I could relate to what he was feeling because I've been there. I knew exactly how he was feeling. When you lose a child, especially in that way, it's just like someone's getting ripped. Like your heart's being torn apart and your whole body aches and it hurts so bad and you just want the pain to go away. And, at that point you get a lot of crazy thoughts that go through your brain. With Briona, 2 days later, a friend of hers, someone that she did the drugs with, also overdosed. And I remember going to her funeral and talking to her dad. And, he was saying, this is a crazy, crazy epidemic. We really need to do something. And it was, yeah, we do, And at the time you're in so much pain and stuff, you want to do something, you need to do something, but you're kind of torn. What am I supposed to do, Well, after Briona died about a month later, actually a couple weeks later, at the time, we had State Representative Joe Graves. He was he was a county commissioner at the time. He stopped by our business, and he was talking with my wife, and he gave his condolences. And my wife said, "Joe, too many kids are dying. We need to do something." And at the time, Joe thought, yeah, we need to do something. He walked away from there, and he didn't know what to do, but he realized that he needed to do something. So what did he do? He made a phone call to Sheriff Piquel. He said, with the conversation he got from Sheriff Piquel that a lot of kids, a lot of people are dying from heroin and opiate overdoses. Because you see, Briona, 2 months prior, she had went to 3 different funerals, all from opiate and alcohol overdoses. 3 in 1 month out of the same area. Opiates it's pretty much the same thing as heroin, except it's synthetic. It's man-made. It's pills, pain pills. So, Sheriff Piquel, he acquired the undersheriff, who was a captain at the time, and Captain Swanson came up with a program, and it was called Chasing the Dragon. And Chasing the Dragon, in terms, what Chasing the Dragon means is you're chasing that high, because anybody that does this this heroin, you're always chasing that first high. So they call it Chasing the Dragon. So at the time, Captain Swanson, the undersheriff, he was making this presentation, and he called. He had Tony Brown could give me a call, and he said, would you be willing to speak? They want to do this at the high school. And I said, hell yeah, I'd speak. About an hour later, they called me and they says, hey, can we use that 911 call? That's pretty powerful. And, my wife was dead against it. And I kind of was too. But in the long run, we wanted something that was so powerful that we could reach these kids so they would never try the heroin or, this, so they'd never have to chase the dragon. I think it was April 21st, I believe, was our first presentation, and it was at the Lake Fenton High School, where Briona went to school and was known. It was so powerful. We had kids in tears and kids passing out, and it wasn't about like a program, scare them to get straight or whatever. It was just very powerful stories of real live events that happened, from the drugs, and how people lost their lives. And that's all it was. It was just straight to the point of the stories of these different peoples that had lost, one lady had lost her sister. We had one lady that her sister was, or not her sister, her daughter was out on the street, selling her ass for her drugs. And it was me and another father. And we also had a gentleman that spoke that was a prize fighter. And from, being hurt and given the opiates, that he had turned to, I don't know if he did the heroin or crack or what it was, but from the drugs, he ended up having a felony, 3 felonies in 3 different counties. And so this was the presentation. And as it opened up, I remember Sheriff Piquel would say, this is real, and this is what's happening in your neighborhoods. And it's It's not a scared straight tactic. It's just real live events that happened in your community. And right after that, Chasing the Dragon would start with rock and roll music and different kids doing drugs and, funerals, before and after pictures of criminals or using the drugs, because it changes your appearance, and not to the good thing either. And through it all, because of the live music and the rock and roll, the kids they're enjoying themselves, and they're really having fun and joking around each other and stuff like that. But then the 911 call comes on, and it gets their attention. It gets their attention where you can hear a pin drop in that auditorium. See, then of course, I come out and I speak and I tell Briona's story, and a lot of people in that auditorium knew her. Briona was very popular. She was very loved. Briona was in the debate. She played soccer, played basketball, volleyball. Very beautiful. It was a big loss for the community. I never realized how many people she had touched in her young life until her funeral. I never realized how many friends she had. But you see, a true friend, you stand up for each other. You you call your friends out when they're doing wrong, and you support them, and you love them, and you tell them like it is. That's a true friend. You don't wait till they're in their casket and you say, I wish I would have. I wish I could have. You do your utmost to tell them like it is when they're messing up. That's a true friend. That's real love. As a parent, these kids, they don't come with directions. And they really test. They test you in every which way. And with the drugs, I really didn't know what to do with her. I turned to a system that I thought was there to help me. I thought a system that was there to help my child. Briona got on drugs at 15, and she was dead by 17. You see, Briona lost her mom to this deadly disease of addiction, and she always wondered why her mom loved this drug more than her. And I couldn't really explain to her, or really comfort her in a way that she needed to understand of this disease till after Briona died. I learned that this disease is not a choice, that this disease is not in no one's hands, that this disease, it touches 10% of us, 10%. And I think sometimes why they don't do more. Then I talk to professionals and they say, well, it's only 10% that's affected. Well, 10% is affected, but we're all affected. What's the face of the addict? The face of the addict is anybody and everybody. That is the face of addiction. The face of addiction is not those homeless people in the gutters. These are everyday people that are affected by this disease. It's people in your neighbors, your neighborhood. It's people in your family. Well, how does this happen? Well, 70%, and this is a trait that's handed to you by family. It's a gene that you inherit. And the other 30% is your surroundings or your social environment that you hang out with. Well, how does this happen? This happens like this, okay? The 70% is, your grandparents were addicts, your parents were addicts, your aunts, your uncles, somebody in your family that you inherited this gene. And you're very susceptible to fall into that. Well, how does it happen? Well, it happens. 10 of us will go to a party, and 1 out of 10 will be affected by this addiction. It could be smoking marijuana. It could be alcohol. An addiction isn't necessarily alcohol or drugs. Addiction, or that addictive personality, that addiction gene that we inherit, could be gambling, it could be sex, it could be anything that runs us. Hell, it could be just sugar. Okay? But those you don't hear so much about because they're not so destructive, I guess, in the sense that it's going to kill you, in that sense. Because addiction of drugs and alcohol, they take 328 people every day. 328 people. Every 13 minutes, we lose somebody. That's how powerful this is. This is more than any disease or sickness, more than wars. But, we're not, as a society or as a government looks upon addiction, there's a stigma behind it that it's only 10%. And they looked upon like these people are gutters. They're not really looked upon as someone that's going to function in society and actually looked upon as a child. Because I'll tell you, people with these addictive personalities are some of the smartest people that you come across. But drugs and alcohol will make you do the craziest things. Steal, lie, uh, sell your ass, boys or girls. They make you kill, hurt, you know. It doesn't stop. All you know is you're sick and you need to get your fix. What does that mean? You're sick. Well, you see, addiction, if you don't get your dope or your alcohol, it's like a terrible, terrible cold. Your body aches, you get the shivers, you're hot, you're cold, that you need your fix. You need to have your alcohol or your drugs just to maintain, to feel okay, to function. Well, you know, I come to you as a parent. I'm not a professional. But, you know, I was I was looked at my child like this was, sorry about that, that this was her fault and she can just stop. Now, where did I get that? I got that from society. The first thing, you know, I couldn't wait to get in front of a judge, you know, so I could get some help for my child. So I turned my daughter to a system, to the wolves, you know, to help me. And I mean, first of all, my daughter was running away. She's sneaking out in the middle of the night. She became somebody, I didn't know who she was anymore. So, you know, I would call the sheriff and they'd come and they'd make a report. But I felt like nothing ever got done. Nothing really satisfied what I needed from them. You know, finally, I finally got in front of a judge, and because she was running away and stuff, we went to this runaway program, and you know, had somebody that was helping me there, and you know, tried to reach to Briona, you know, this is what you need to do, and such and stuff like that. And, well, she still ran away. So we got in front of a judge, and you know, I went in there pleading for my child for help, and the judge looked at me, and he looked at me like I was to blame. He said I was blaming the whole system. Really, I wasn't blaming anybody. I was trying to tell him what was going on with my child. And I was pleading for help is what I was doing. And this judge looked at me and said, well, instead of blaming everybody, you know, maybe you just need to take a couple weeks off of your work and be home with your child. I was dumbfounded. The words, nothing could come out of my mouth. So I sat down, and I remember there was a lady from this runaway program, and she just said, what a fucking asshole. Excuse my French, but you know, I kind of chuckled, but tears came down my face, and it was like, I'm not gonna get no help here either. Well, Briona went to a detention center. She was 15. And that was the start of many of these detentions that she went to. Well, she went to a detention center. Then they sent her to a rehab. And the rehab was supposed to be 21 days. And 9 days later, they're telling me to come pick her up. And I really didn't get it because her therapist, or this guy that from this rehab place, as I'm signing the papers, he says, well, your daughter will be back. I said, I don't get it. She's going to be back. Why are you letting her go? And he said, I have to. This is how our system operates. You see, I didn't have 25,000 or 50,000 to send my daughter to, I guess a rehab that she needed. Anyway, Briona went through the system, and at one time they put a tether on her, and I come home one day and she cut the tether, and thank God she left it there, because it would have been $1,500 I would have had to pay, but that's what it was. It was just, I just felt like it was more about the dollar and not about my child. Anyway, when she cut the tether off, I believe it was 3 or 4 days later, they found Briona in a home, and she was so messed up. Her parole officer or probation officer or whatever, I think it was probation officer, had called me and said they're taking her into the court, if you could meet us at the courthouse. And I said, sure. And when I got there, Briona was just a mess. Just a mess. I mean, just screaming, yelling, crying. And the magistrate at the time, he says, well, we're going to send her back to the detention center, but let's make sure she's okay. Let's send her to the hospital. So, she was sent to Hurley. And when I got in there, Briona, she was kind of, this doctor was just screaming back and forth at each other. Briona's asking for some Suboxone, which is some kind of drug, so she could come down. And the doctor, she's yelling at Briona, and she's saying, why should I do anything for you? You're doing this to yourself. I got people that are sick here, and you're doing this to yourself. You're making yourself sick. When the doctor's telling her that, I tell my daughter, I'm like, Briona, why don't you just quit? Why are you doing this to you? Why are you doing this to our family? I remember there was a sheriff deputy there, and he's saying to her too, you got good family, why are you doing this to them, and this and that. And I was just kind of sick to my stomach. And, finally, this doctor gave her something, and they told me, the deputy told me that as soon as she calms down, then we're going to be transporting her to the detention center. And it was like, all right, honey, I'm leaving, I was so upset with her, and I left. I think it was the second or third day that I went to see her at the detention center. You see, you're kind of torn. All you know is you love this child, and you don't know what to do for them. You don't know how to help them. I remember I got to that detention center and Briona's mouth was kind of crooked. I said, Briona, what the hell happened to you? She said, oh, when they brought me in, this guard was talking. She wanted me to do something, and I didn't move as quick enough for her, so she beat the shit out of me. When I talked to her probation officer, she said that that lady had been fired from her job. You see, you're at these people's mercy. You don't really know what how the law works because they're supposedly the law. You don't know what your rights are because you're thinking your daughter is a criminal because that's how she's treated. They don't treat her like she's sick. Come to find out, they never fired that guard. They just moved her to a different floor. And like I said, they tell you it's a sickness, but they're treated like a criminal. That you start believing it too. You don't really know what to do. You just love this person, and you don't know how to help them. And you just think that, the professionals, this is their expertise, that they can help her. Well, I found that they didn't have a clue. See, as a doctor, you would think they know better. But speaking to lots of addicts, ever since my daughter died, here's a recovering addict that goes to a doctor for getting a tooth pulled or whatever, or some kind of pain, broken leg or whatever. And, they want to give them the opiates for the pain. And the addict will tell them, listen, I can't take that. I'm an addict. And so they'll want to write a different prescription, pretty much the same thing. They don't realize that would be a path for them to go down that road again that they're recovering from. You see, we have almost 1 million doctors, and we have less than 3,000 doctors that know about addiction. Isn't that crazy? But that's the truth.
The thing that I keep on hearing crop up, I'm interjecting here, I'm sorry about this, but because I think it's got to be brought up, but it just seems that the major obstacle for people to seek out treatment is the politicization of it, the politicalization of addiction. Basically, it's like somebody sees this and the knee-jerk reaction is like, well, let's create a law. But the law is like, oh, it's good for a certain parameter of behaviors or something like that, but basically now you're bringing everybody into the judicial system, which is actually very costly, has very punitive, punishment going along with it. And also now it's something that follows a person throughout their life, this criminal record and all this stuff, which makes it more difficult and could contribute to the problem later than maybe, going back to drug use. I mean, it just seems like it's just basically this vicious circle that we can't get out of in the society, especially in the United States, because everybody's eager to do a political solution for every problem.
Well, that's just it. We've had this war on drugs since the 70s. And we've built more prisons. And we've housed more criminals, where 60% of our prisons are people with mental health and addiction. So what is that telling us? We keep doing the same thing with the same stupid results, but, a jackass would learn from the first time, but as our politicians or these people that we have making these laws and stuff up, they're not getting it. That's not working. It would actually cost less for our government to treat people with addiction and this mental health issues than to house them and imprison them. So I think finally we're making some headways, because so many families are losing their children, and every day a different coalition is going up, and these coalitions, because see, the louder the voice, that they can't avoid you anymore. They can't say it's not happening, because for the longest times they want to sweep this under the carpet. And this only affects 10% of the people. No, this affects us all. And the louder the voice, the more that we're heard, and the more that we can get some results done. And something to a good effect besides imprisonment. Hell, I mean, here in our Genesee County jails, there was no room to lock people up, which they were only just writing them a ticket and here, appear in court. You think they ever come to court? Hell no. Thank you. You gave me a free pass. Well, it's about time, that if you're not a voice, that you become a voice, because that's the only way that changes happen, is by communication and opening our voices to be heard and to get something done. I lost my child, and I can't ever bring her back. And all I have is the memories. And the whole thing is, the last 2 years were not good memories, This was my firstborn. This is the first to make me a daddy. And as a parent, we're the protectors. And I couldn't protect her. I couldn't protect her from what was out there. And hopefully, from hearing Briona's story, that we can save your child or your sibling or someone that you love, that you don't have to feel the pain of us fathers that's lost. Because, your whole body aches. And it just the emptiness that just doesn't go away. You get to a place where you accept and you surrender. But that emptiness doesn't ever go away. My daughter, when she was born, it was like the happiest day of my life. And I remember I put my hand in her hand, and she put her whole hand and grabbed my finger. And I said, I'm your daddy, I'm your protector. I was thankful for one thing, Brianna going through all of this 2 weeks before she died, she came home and she had overdosed, and she called me and she said, "Daddy, I overdosed. I'm scared. I want to come home." And I said, "Brianna, honey, you're always welcome. This is your home." I said, "You got two brothers that you need to be looking out for too." And she said, "Yeah, I don't want to do this shit anymore." When you love someone, you want to believe them. You want to think the best. But, when she came home, at least we made amends. We talked. And, as a parent, I told her, I said, "I feel like I've let you down. I feel like I didn't protect you." Of course, I had a lot of guilt. She told me, she said, "Daddy, don't ever blame yourself. You were a good daddy." It was something she had to go through. It was all about her. Does that make you feel any better? Hell no. I still lost her. That's why I cannot stop this fight. I don't want her death to be in vain. I want her story to be how many people we saved from her story. You're always going to hear about the losses. And you're always going to hear about the deaths. And a lot of times you don't hear about the ones that's been saved or that your message got across to them. But every now and then you do. And it's such a wonderful feeling. And I had a couple years ago, I had somebody sent me a message on Facebook, and I opened up this message, and it was a young lady that had been struggling with pills, and she told me, she says, "You don't know who I am, but I thank you for saving my life." That's why we do this. That's why I picked up this fight. You see, I remember when we first started all of this. And I remember a senator, Senator Gleason, as a matter of fact. He says to me, he said, "I don't know why you're doing this, There's just too much money and greed to get anything done." I said, "I don't understand, Senator. So the challenge is too big, so we just don't do nothing?" Does that make sense? You see, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the fight. That's how I feel. And the bigger the drive that we have to have, that we want some changes. And these people that we put in office, you got to remember that they work for us. But they can only work for us if your voices are loud and you're letting them know what you want them to do, why we put them there. You see, the whole thing is, we as a nation, as a people, we've gotten quiet and we're accepting things the way they are. This is not the America that I remember. This is not the America that it's supposed to be. What happened to we the people? It's about big government, and it's about being quiet. And I say that's enough of that bullshit. Let's take our America back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's stand up for the right, for what we need done. Let's stand up for our Constitution. Because our forefathers, they foreseen everything that we're coming to. But our people are quiet. And we got our heads up our asses. And we're accepting all the shit that we're getting. We're accepting everything that we're getting. And I say enough. Enough. Let's take our America back. The land of the free. Every time somebody has a voice, they want to shut you up. They want you to go away. But you see, the louder the voice, that they cannot shut us up. I'm asking you to wake up. Wake up. Wake up and smell the roses. Smell the coffee. See what's happening around you. This is not what it's supposed to be. This is not, it's not about the money and the greed. It's about family. It's about these people that we hire. Yeah, we hire them. We vote them into office. And we vote them into office to do what we need them to do so we can have a good life. And a good life is not being on food stamps, okay? They're giving you your little cookies just to get you through and just keep you quiet. There's more to life than that. You gotta want more. I love this country. I was born in Lebanon, but my grandfather was a citizen of this country. And through him, that my father was a citizen. And I remember the day my dad found out that he was a citizen. And it was like, we're going to America. I remember he was so happy. Because of everything my grandfather told him about this country. It's the greatest country in the world. But the people have to wake up. We're sleeping. We're accepting. Everything that we get, we're accepting. Instead of holding people accountable. And saying enough. Enough. Let's take our country back to where it was. You see, the only way drugs come into this country is by whoever's greedy, whoever's getting paid to let it come in. You know, in New York a couple of weeks ago, there was a $50 million bust of heroin. $50 million bust. That's what was caught. How much of this drugs, this poison came through? Because you can bet your ass there was a lot more that got through this country than that $50 million that they caught. Always, always that greed and the money. We get a lot of politicians that speak a great game. Then they get there, and money, it changes their way of thinking. It changes of what was the reason they got there in the first place. But if we don't hold them accountable, it just keeps getting worse. And I don't understand. The greatest privilege that we have is we get to vote. I don't want to get involved. It doesn't really matter who I vote for. I heard it all. It's the best of the two evils. Well, I think that if we start throwing some people on their asses, getting them out of office, maybe they'll wake up. Maybe we can get our country back to where it was. It's not just the drugs that's the problem. It's not about we the people. It's about big business and big government, because that's what's running this country. It's about the mighty dollar and how much it's not really worth anymore. I really appreciate you listening today. I was quiet. I didn't want to get involved. And I took everything that I had coming. But it's like this. Sooner or later you say enough. And I'm not taking this shit anymore. And that's how it is. I had an opportunity and to go and speak to these kids. And hopefully, that it doesn't, that it stops them from this addiction. Hopefully, that if they see a problem, they can reach out for help, because there is hope. And there is some good out there that are doing for the right and not for the mighty dollar. And today I'm asking you to join a coalition, to join me, to speak up, to be a voice and be heard, that changes have to come, because our children are worth it. And hopefully, you think that you're not affected by this addiction, but sooner or later it ends up being on your footsteps. It ends up being in your home. This has happened to a lot of great families, but we're losing 328 people every day. And I say enough. Let's make some changes together. Please, let me count on you. A big thing is, one hand doesn't clap by itself. That means I need you. And the louder the voice, the more that we're going to get heard. Thank you so much for joining me today. God bless. Catch you next week. All right. Have a great day.